The skies of Varelia were burning. Ash fell like snow, and fire rained from the torn heavens. Ships exploded mid-air, screaming across the clouds. The ground shook under the force of every impact. And in the middle of it all, she ran. Her name was Zalara, the last daughter of the royal house of Avastri. Her skin shimmered faint blue under the smoke, glowing faintly like starlight through fog. Her long silver hair, once worn with pride, was now dirty and tangled. Her dress, what remained of it, was torn from battle and escape. But her eyes still burned with life, even as death followed close behind. She wasn't supposed to be here. The War Council had promised that the capital was secure. But they were wrong. The humans weren't the enemy this time. Not this war. It was the Krell, the shapeless invaders from the void. Monsters without mercy, destroying everything. And now they had reached the palace. Her family had stayed behind to fight. She had fled, pushed into a hidden tunnel by her own mother. Run, the queen had whispered. Live. Now she was alone, limping across the rocky cliffs just beyond the ruined city. The explosions behind her grew softer, but she knew that didn't mean safety. She could feel the Krell watching her, hunting her. Her lungs burned. Her legs gave out. She collapsed by a jagged stone, chest heaving, unable to go further. A strange quiet surrounded her. No more engines. No more screams. Just the sound of her own heartbeat, and the wind. That's when she saw him. At first, she thought it was another Krell. She reached for the dagger at her side, only to remember she had lost it hours ago. But the figure moving down the rocks wasn't a monster. It was a man. A human. He wore dark tactical armor, torn and scratched. His face was covered in dust, his short blonde hair matted with sweat and blood. But his eyes were sharp, focused, alive. He looked at her for a long second. Then he dropped his weapon. Zalara blinked, confused. She had seen humans in battle before, some cruel, some brave, most indifferent. But this one knelt beside her like she was something fragile. His hands hovered near her body but didn't touch. "You're hurt," he said softly. She didn't understand his words at first, human tongue. But his voice was low and kind, careful. She could hear something in it, like guilt or pain. She tried to speak, but only a broken sound came out. She had lost too much blood. Her vision blurred. The human pulled out a small scanner and moved it over her shoulder. Her armor was cracked. Her skin had been burned. A jagged piece of metal had pierced just below her ribs. "You'll bleed out in minutes," he said, more to himself than to her. Then, without asking, he started working. She should have pushed him away. She didn't even know his name. But she couldn't move, and something about his eyes told her he meant no harm. He opened a small med pack from his bag and injected something into her arm. Pain flared, then dulled. Her breathing steadied. "You're lucky I found you," he whispered. She watched him, trying to stay awake. The war had taken everything, her parents, her home, her throne. But this human, this stranger, had chosen to help her. Not because of duty, not for power, but simply because he could. He wasn't supposed to be there either. His ship had crashed during the second wave. He had been hiding for days. But when he saw her collapse from the rocks above, something told him he couldn't ignore her. Maybe it was the way she looked up at the sky, like she still had hope. Maybe it was because he had once lost someone too. The sky above rumbled again. Another wave coming. Krell ships in the distance. He knew they had to move, or they would both die. "I'm going to lift you," he said. "Just hold on." She tried to nod. He gently picked her up, surprised at how light she was. Her head rested against his shoulder. Her skin was cool, but still glowing faintly. Alive, he started climbing back toward the hidden cave he had used. Before, it wasn't much, but it was safe. For now, as they moved, her hand gripped his shirt weakly. "Why?" "Save me," she whispered in broken words. He looked down at her, because no one should die alone. She closed her eyes for the first time since the war began. She felt warmth. The cave was cold and narrow, hidden behind a wall of shattered rocks. No one would notice it unless they were looking carefully, and that was the point. He had found it by accident, crawling through the ruins after his ship fell. Now it was all he had, and now he was sharing it. Solara lay on a thick layer of folded cloth. He had made it softer using scraps from his armor and dried leaves. It wasn't fit for a princess, but it was better than the broken ground outside. Human sat beside her, checking her pulse again. She was still too pale, even for her natural blue skin. The healing gel had stopped the bleeding, but her body was weak. She needed real care. Real medicine. But that didn't exist anymore, not here. The city was gone. The palace was ash. There were no more doctors, no more royal guards, just him. His name was Jace, a scout. Trained for survival, not saving alien royalty. He hadn't spoken much after reaching the cave. He gave her water. Kept her warm. Made sure the fire stayed small, so no light would be seen. But mostly, he watched her, carefully, quietly, and she watched him back. Solara had seen many humans before. Most were cold, calculating. Soldiers, politicians, warlords. But Jace wasn't like them. He didn't brag. He didn't demand anything. His hands were rough from work, his armor scratched, and yet he had been so gentle with her, like touching a falling star. She tried to sit up, but her body cried out in pain. Jace moved quickly to support her. "Don't force it," he said, steadying her with one arm. "You lost a lot of blood." She looked at him, her voice barely a whisper. "You stay?" He nodded. "You're not safe alone." A strange warmth bloomed in her chest. No one had ever stayed for her before, not without orders. Even the royal guards followed because of duty, not care. She stared at his face, at the thin scar running across his jaw. He must have been through hell too. He looked tired, bruised, but strong. "You not afraid?" she asked. "Of you?" He smiled. "No," she blinked, confused. "Why not?" "You don't look like someone who wants to hurt anyone." She frowned slightly. "I was trained to lead armies. I was trained to shoot things that move," he replied calmly. "But here we are." She laughed softly, though it hurt. It was the first time she had smiled since the war began. Jace handed her a ration bar. "Eat. You'll need strength." She took it slowly, chewing carefully. The taste was awful, but she didn't care. It felt human, strange, new. As she ate, she watched him clean a long scratch on his forearm. Blood dried against his skin. He didn't flinch. "You lost someone?" she asked. His hand paused. He didn't answer right away. Then, quietly, he nodded. "My brother. He didn't make it off the dropship." She looked away. "I'm sorry." Jace shrugged. "War takes everything." There was a silence between them, not cold, just heavy. Then her hand reached out, shaky and unsure, and touched his arm. "You saved me," she whispered. "I owe you my life." "You don't owe me anything," he said, but she shook her head slowly. "No, I was alone. I was ready to die, but you didn't let me." Jace looked at her. "I couldn't leave you." She held his gaze, her voice trembling. "Then don't." He blinked. "What do you mean?" She lowered her eyes, embarrassed. "Don't leave, not after this. I don't want to go back to being alone." The words weren't royal. They weren't proud. But they were honest. Jace sat down beside her again. "I'm not going anywhere." She leaned her head against his shoulder. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the night howled with wind and ghosts. But inside that small cave, something stronger than fear was beginning to grow, something warm, quiet, and real. The sun rose slowly over the broken hills. Smoke still floated in the sky, but the light gave some hope. Inside the cave, Jace was already awake. He sat near the entrance, watching the path, rifle in hand. His body was still, but his mind was alert. He didn't sleep much anymore. Not since the war started. Behind him, Zalara stirred. She opened her eyes slowly. Her body still ached, but the pain was not as sharp now. The healing drug he gave her was working. She could move a little. Breathe easier. Her eyes landed on the human again. Jace. Still guarding her. Still silent. Still there. She watched him for a moment, feeling something she didn't expect. Safety. You stayed, she said softly. He looked back, gave a small nod. Didn't plan on leaving. Why? She asked again. You don't even know who I am. I know enough, he said without turning. She sat up slowly, wincing a little. I am a princess, last of the royal line of Avastri. Some would say I'm more valuable dead than alive. Jace turned now. His face was calm, but serious. I'm not some bounty hunter, Zalara. I don't care about crowns or bloodlines. I care that you're alive. His words hit her harder than any blast ever had. They felt real, heavy. Most people only valued her title, her name, her power, but this human, he saw her, just her. I never met someone like you, she said quietly. Jace gave a small smile. I could say the same. She tried to stand up. Her legs trembled, but she managed. Jace stepped forward quickly, ready to catch her, but she shook her head. I need to move, she said. If I stay still, I'll stay weak. He respected that. He stepped back, but his eyes didn't leave her. She walked slowly toward the small pool of water inside the cave. She washed her face, touched her cheek where the glowing blue markings shimmered under the light. Jace watched her. He had never seen anyone like her. She didn't just look beautiful, she looked different, magical, like something from a story, but the way she held herself, even wounded, even afraid, there was strength there. Real strength. We can't stay here forever, she said, drying her hands. The crow will search the area. I know, he replied. But you're not ready to travel far. She turned to him. So what's the plan, human? He gave a half smile. You're starting to sound like a soldier. She raised an eyebrow. I am a soldier. Trained since childhood. But you're different from what we were told. The humans I read about in the war briefings were cold, dangerous. I'm still dangerous, he said lightly, but not cold. There was a silence again. Finally, Jace pulled out a small digital map. There's a drop point about 5 kilometers east. If we make it there, we might find an old supply crate. Maybe even a working beacon. Can you carry me that far? She asked, testing him. I could, he said. But I'd rather you walk beside me. She gave a small smile. Then help me train again. Get me strong enough. He nodded. We start now. The next few hours were slow. He helped her stretch, move, rebuild muscle. He taught her how to balance again. She fell twice, laughed once. And every time she stumbled, he was there, not mocking, not scolding, just there. When she grew tired, he gave her water. When her breathing grew fast, he made her stop and rest. And all the while, he looked at her like she mattered, not as a princess, not as a soldier, but as someone worth saving. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she was more than her title. She was just Azela, and he was just Jace. And somehow, in the middle of a war that had destroyed entire worlds, two strangers were learning how to live again. Together. Zalara's steps were still slow, but they were stronger than yesterday. The wound in her side no longer felt like fire, just a dull ache. Her hand rested near it as she followed Jace through the rocky forest. Their journey had begun at dawn. The path was steep, with broken trees and craters marking old battles. Smoke still drifted far in the distance, black scars. On the horizon, Jace moved ahead but not too far. Always close enough to catch her if she fell. He checked the scanner in his hand again. No Krell nearby. At least not yet. You sure this supply crate exists? She asked, voice light but sharp. Jace smirked without looking back. Not sure. Just hopeful. She rolled her eyes. That's not a plan. That's a wish. Sometimes a wish is all you have, he said. Besides, humans tend to get lucky. Lucky? She scoffed. Your kind is reckless, arrogant, loud. He stopped and looked at her. And yet we're the ones saving princesses. She couldn't stop the laugh that escaped. It was small and tired, but real. She hadn't laughed like that in years. Not since before the war. Not since her world was taken from her. They continued walking. Birds strange and silent watched from twisted trees. The air was heavy. Tension hummed in the background, like the world itself was waiting for something. Finally, they reached a small ridge overlooking the valley. Jace dropped low and motioned for her to do the same. Below, hidden by a fallen starship's wing, was a supply pod. Half buried, but intact. I'll check it, Jace whispered. You stay here. She nodded, hiding behind the rocks. He moved fast and quiet, gun ready. She held her breath. Her heart thudded harder. What if it was a trap? What if Krell had already found it? But then, Jace gave a thumbs up. He opened the pod and pulled out 2 bags. His smile widened. Food, ammo, and, he paused, reaching deeper, a working beacon. Zalara's eyes lit up. You can call for help? Maybe, he said, walking back up. If I boost the signal. Might reach a patrol ship. But whose ship? She asked. Human? Evastri? Or worse? Right now, I don't care, he said. As long as it's not Krell. They set up camp nearby, behind the thick metal of the wrecked ship. Jace connected the beacon to a solar charger and adjusted the frequency. It would take hours to send. A strong enough pulse. As he worked, Zalara watched him. This human, alone on a dead world, was doing everything to keep her alive. No orders, no reward. Just heart. She stood and walked toward him. You've done so much for me, she said softly. You didn't have to. He didn't stop working, I know. You don't ask questions, you don't demand things. Why? He looked up now. His eyes were steady. Because when I found you, I saw someone who didn't want to die. I saw a reason to keep going. Her throat tightened. She stepped closer. I want to live, she said, but not alone. Jace didn't. Speak. I know I'm a princess. I know your kind fought ours. But out here, it doesn't matter. Out here, I'm just a broken girl. And you're the only thing holding me together. He finally stood. There was a long silence between them. Then he said, You don't need someone to hold you together, Zalara. You're stronger than you. No, she shook her head. I wasn't, not until you found me. She reached for his hand, and he didn't pull away. They stood there, 2 enemies, 2 survivors, connected by something deeper than war. Not just survival, but choice. Connection. A feeling neither of them wanted to name yet, but both were beginning to understand. Night returned, bringing with it the cold silence of the dead forest. Zalara sat close to the fire Jace had built behind the crashed ship's wing. The heat touched her skin softly, but her mind was far from calm. The beacon blinked in the shadows. Pulsing once every few seconds, a signal had been sent. Now they waited. Jace leaned against a large piece of metal, cleaning his weapon. He didn't speak much, but Zalara had learned that he listened more than he talked. That mattered. She glanced at him. You trust the signal will be picked up? He shrugged. I trust it will be noticed. What happens after that is out of my hands. She stared into the fire. Everything feels like it's out of my hands now. Jace looked at her, lowering his weapon. Not everything. You're still breathing. You still have choices. She smiled faintly. Do I? My home is destroyed. My people are scattered. Or dead. If someone comes, it might be to kill me, or take me. Then they'll have to go through me first, he said simply. She turned her head, eyes wide. Why would you fight for me? Jace stood slowly, walked toward her. Because I made a choice, to save you. And I don't stop halfway. Her heart beat faster. The way he looked at her, it wasn't like the soldiers in court. Not like the generals or suitors from alien houses, who saw her as a trophy. Jace saw the scars, and stayed anyway. You don't even know what I've done, she whispered. I gave orders that cost lives. I tried to fight the Krell, and I failed. I wasn't a good leader. You were still brave, he said. That matters, she shook her head. You don't understand, you're right, he cut in. I don't know what it's like to lead a planet, but I know what it's like to lose people. To feel like you're not enough. And I know what it's like to wish someone would just see you for who you are, not what they expect. His voice dropped to a softer tone. I see you, Zalara, all of you. She felt something break inside. A quiet wall. A barrier she didn't even know she had. And in its place came warmth. She stepped forward. Her hand found his. No hesitation now. Then stay with me, she said. Even when the signal brings someone. Even if it's dangerous. He squeezed her hand gently. I already made that choice. Just then, a sharp beep came from the beacon. Jace turned quickly. The light was no longer pulsing, it was steady. Someone had answered the signal. Is it human? She asked, heart racing. He checked the screen. His brow furrowed. No ID, could be a patrol ship, could be worse. She stepped beside him. What do we do? Jace looked into the distance, eyes scanning the sky. We prepare. The moment of peace was gone. Replaced by the cold truth, someone was coming. Maybe a rescue. Maybe death. But they weren't alone anymore, and for the first time, Zalara didn't feel like a princess without a throne. She felt like a woman who had something to protect, and someone who would protect her in return. The night was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that felt wrong. Jace stood at the edge of the broken ridge, his rifle ready. His eyes scanned the sky, waiting for any sign of movement. Zalara stood behind him, her hand gently resting on the cold metal of the beacon. Its green light now blinked slow and steady. Nothing yet? She asked. He shook his head. Not a sound. The answer to their signal was still unidentified. No name, no code, no voice. Just a return ping, followed by silence. Zalara walked closer. Her long silver hair moved with the wind. It could be the Krell, she said quietly. It could be, Jace replied. Or it could be someone friendly who's just afraid to speak. She looked up at him. And what if it's a trap? Jace's voice didn't change. Then I'll spring it first. His calmness gave her strength. But deep inside, her stomach twisted. She had lived through battle, through betrayal, through the death of her people. And yet, the idea of losing Jace that frightened her more than she expected. Suddenly, a low hum echoed through the clouds. Not loud but near. They both turned toward the sound. A ship. Sleek, silent, black as night with glowing red edges. It was descending fast. Zalara's eyes widened. That's not a Vastri. That's not human either. No, Jace said, lifting his scope. That's mercenary tech, high-end, could be hired scavengers. The ship landed half a kilometer away, its engines still warm. The ramp opened slowly. Figures stepped out. 3 of them, humanoid armed, faces covered. Jace motioned for Zalara to stay low. He moved ahead carefully, crouched behind broken rocks. One of the mercenaries held a scanner. They were tracking something. The beacon. They had come for the signal. Zalara's pulse raced. They're not here to help us. No, Jace said. They're here to collect what's left. He turned to her. You stay here. If anything happens, run. Head north. Don't stop. I'm not leaving you, she said firmly. You have to No, she repeated. You found me, you healed me, you made me feel alive again. I won't watch you die just to buy me a few minutes. Jace hesitated, then nodded once. All right then, he said. We stand together. She picked up a short plasma blade from the crate. Her fingers wrapped around it like they remembered battle. Her glow returned soft, but stronger now. The mercenaries moved in closer. Then one of them spotted the cave. They raised their rifle. Jace didn't wait. He fired first. The blast hit the attacker square in the chest, sending the body flying backwards. The others ducked and returned fire. Sparks flew as rocks exploded around them. Zalara dashed beside him, blade glowing. Her eyes narrowed, calm and focused. Another merc charged toward them, but Zalara moved like a whisper. One slash, clean and fast, dropped the enemy before he could speak. The last one turned to flee, but Jace shot once, clean and silent. The man dropped. Smoke hung in the air. The only sounds were the crackling fire and their fast breathing. Jace lowered his weapon. You all right? Zalara looked at the bodies, then at him. They were going to take me, he nodded. But they didn't. She stepped closer. You could have let them distract you. You could have escaped. I didn't come all this way to let you die, he said. Besides, you begged me to stay, remember? She smiled slightly, then moved forward, and for the first time, she hugged him, not like a soldier, not like a princess, but like someone who had finally found something worth holding on to. The bodies of the mercenaries lay still, their weapons scattered in the dirt. Smoke from the battle curled into the morning air. The silence that followed wasn't empty, it was full of meaning. Zalara stood beside Jace, her blade now dim, her breathing calm. They had survived. Again. But this time, it felt different. Jace walked to the beacon. It had stopped blinking. The power drained. The signal was done. We need to move, he said softly. More could come. Scavengers always chase. The first wave. Zalara nodded, but didn't move yet. What happens now? She asked. Jace looked at her, then at the horizon. We find somewhere safe. We keep going. You still want to protect me? She asked. I don't want to, he said. I choose to. Her heart beat a little faster. In a world where she had lost everything, that one word meant everything. Choose. She took his hand. You asked me once if I wanted to live, she said. The truth is, I didn't know. But now I do. Jace smiled, a rare softness in his face. Why now? Because you showed me life isn't just duty or bloodlines. It's choice, trust, feeling something again. The two of them packed quickly, just the basics. No crown, no royal badge. Nothing that tied them to the war. Just a beacon memory. Chip, 2 weapons, a few supplies, and each other. As they moved through the wreckage, Zalara looked back once at the cave, at the place she almost died. Where she had cried alone. Where she had begged. And where he answered. Not with words, but with everything he had. They traveled for days, avoiding broken cities and silent battlefields. They hid from the Krell, bypassed human patrols, and moved under starlight. Each night, Jace kept watch. Each day, Zalara grew stronger, faster, more alive. Until one evening, as the sun dipped low, they found it. A village, small, quiet, neutral. A place where no one asked questions. Where survivors gathered, no flags, no armies. Just life. They entered. Hand in hand, 2 strangers, 1 story. A week passed. Then another, and in that time, they never left each other's side. One morning, Zalara stood on the edge of the cliffs, wind in her hair. Jace walked up behind her, wrapping an old blanket around her shoulders. Still thinking about going back? He asked. She shook her head. No, I'm thinking about moving forward. He raised an eyebrow. With me? She looked at him, eyes soft but steady. I begged you to stay, she whispered. Now I'm asking for more. Jace didn't need to ask what she meant. He saw it in her eyes. This wasn't just survival anymore. It was love, hard-earned, grown from pain, real. He took her hands gently. And with nothing but stars above them and silence all around, he whispered, "Then let's begin again together." They kissed softly, two souls from different worlds, now one path. And somewhere far away, the war still raged. But here, in this quiet place, something beautiful had survived. A choice, a promise, a beginning.